And welcome to News from the Pew, where we take news from around the interwebs and distill it to make it slightly less frightening. I am your host, Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic. Hanging out with my panel as always, we have from the state of North Carolina, Mr. Steve Cunningham, the godfather of YouTube and all Catholic media. We're coming from the state of Kentucky, Mr. Waziazi, who is constantly recreating music and doing the things. And then we also have Mr. Jonathan Arrington coming to us live from where exactly are you again?
He's pulling a Rick.
You could unmute yourself and that would help too.
He's pulling a Rick.
That's it.
Yeah,
Gower,
there's only room for one of us around here. One more time, John.
Gower, Missouri.
All right, excellent. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, so we are going to jump right in. Pretty busy week. Let's start with the most, I think the most prominent for us because it deals with Catholics within the so-called culture war and how people think there's any way to kind of coexist. So earlier this week, we had an issue with the LA Dodgers, the prominent baseball team, where they went back and forth with their Pride Night. They initially invited this blasphemous group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, which is a bunch of dudes who dress up as nuns and wear rosaries and do all kinds of blasphemous things. Then they backtracked. Then they caved again. I think that's a perfect enough setup. Steve, let's roll some clips here. Get everybody caught up.
I have a lot of Catholics and Christians, and frankly, they're hurt by this. The LA Dodgers are honoring a group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence during a Pride Night game next month. The Archdiocese of LA, Catholic leaders there, say the group mocks the Catholic faith and women religious who serve the poor and sick, and is asking all Catholics to stand against bigotry and hate in any form. The president is Catholic, we all know. What is his reaction to this story?
Look, I appreciate the question, Owen. I'm just not going to get into the middle of who a sports team is going to honor or should not honor. That's just not something that I'm going to get in the middle of.
The president has made it, it's very important to him religious freedom. He's issued statements in the past saying all people of all religions should be treated with equal dignity and respect. I know what you just said there. You kind of want to stay out of it, but isn't this a prime example of something like that?
I'm just not going to get in the middle of who a sports team decides to honor or not honor. That is not going to get in the middle of that. But appreciate.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I'm sure by now you've all heard about this controversy involving the LA Dodgers and the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. You know, the Dodgers invited this group, which I think can only be described as an anti-Catholic hate group, invited them to be honored at the Dodger Stadium. Then when there was a howl of protest from Catholics and others, they disinvited them, good move. But then they re-invited them, and the re-invitation was accompanied by a kind of pathetic apology where they were praised for all the great work that they do. Now, look, I'm not going to go into all the details. Look them up on YouTube or something. You'd find what they do. I'll give you one example. I think it was on Easter Sunday, there was a display where they have Jesus on the cross, so the most sacred moment in history for Catholics. And a drag queen comes in and kind of pulls Jesus off the cross, then does a sort of pole dance on the cross. For Catholics, it's hard to imagine anything more offensive than that. Suppose this group had dressed up in a kind of simulacrum of a rabbi and had done something deeply disrespectful to the Torah, or take it a step further, had dressed up in a mockery of a Muslim cleric or imam, and then had desecrated the Quran. What would the reaction be? Those questions answer themselves, but somehow attacking Catholics in this most disgraceful way is okay. Not only okay, it should be honored. You know, everybody, I've said this before, but there's a long tradition in our country of anti-Catholicism. It was said famously, about a century ago, the last acceptable prejudice in America is anti-Catholicism. But we shouldn't tolerate it. One thing I would say, since the Dodgers clearly are not responding to a decent appeal to reason, I'd encourage my friends back in LA. Look, I was auxiliary bishop for 6 years in LA. I threw out the first pitch at a Dodgers game a few years ago. But I'd encourage my friends back there, boycott the Dodgers. May I say, too, especially my Hispanic friends, many of whom are big baseball fans out there, this is your religion. This is the religion of your family, of your abuela and abuelo, of your familia, your tradición. Why are we tolerating this? We shouldn't be tolerating it. So let's pray, everybody. Let's pray for the defense of our faith, and let's stand for the Catholic faith.
All right. So let's just get this started. John, I know you've been busy traveling and the like. Your reaction to this whole thing going down and the fact that I didn't even know there was a group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence until this happened, but their amplification and just the whole, your thoughts, John.
Well, I mean, nothing that His Excellency said is necessarily wrong, but seems to me this brings up a just kind of a psychological, or maybe, no, really actually a spiritual fact that's too often overlooked. And that's that you can't rely on, hey, let's fight the people who are against us at the last second as kind of a negative backstop, so that they don't make too many encroaches on the Catholic faith. Being out here and seeing all these thousands of people that have come, and a lot of them non-Catholics, who's incredible. Like at Mass today, the priest had to say, there's a lot of non-Catholics here, and he made a statement, maybe our Lord's drawing you to something greater here, and for those that he said there were a lot that had not been practicing the faith for a while. They heard about this miracle out here, and they come to Gower to check out Sister Wilhelmina. This actually is on point, I promise. But the priest out there, the chaplain for the sisters, made a great point. Said you have to be for something, okay? And so sometimes God uses these miracles in life to make you for the faith, to be big pro something. That's one thing, in my opinion, that the pro-life group did prudently early on, was to choose a name that was not anti-abortion, even though you have to be anti-abortion if you're going to be pro-life, but to say, pro-life. And the different iterations of that in other languages, you have to be for something. And so it seems to me the church leaders up to this point have not given Catholics enough good, true, holy, beautiful things to be for, because that's the things that really draw you and keep you drawn. So right now, some people are probably going to, as I guess we've seen in the news, are going to fight back. There's going to be a big protest. But look, psychologically and spiritually, that doesn't last. Okay. It's something that will happen for a moment, but then people are going to forget about it very, very soon, just like any other scandal. If you want to have something authentic, it's going to keep people attached to the Catholic faith. It can't be, well, hey, fight any encroachment that we see or some sort of anti-Catholic bias. It's got to be something deeper and something that's going to attract men to, like Aristotle says, we're after the good. Okay. So something like this, a miracle that will draw people and will attract and will keep people attracted probably for generations or at least for decades, is what the church should be really focused on. Yes, fight this crazy stuff by the Dodgers, but look, if you get people interested in the faith after all this, you got to keep them attached to the faith with something more than just, hey, fight off anti-Catholic bias.
Absolutely. Great points, John. Fwaz, once again, we're back at the intersection of sports and whatever politics, religion, whatever the case may be. And we're actually having a problem now where we have Catholics, you would call them left cats, if you want, who are saying we should allow this just to kind of own and troll the religious Catholics, traditional Catholics, whatever you want to call them. You have that. And also you have, once again, I'm going to read this real quick for you, Fwaz. Clayton Kershaw just announced, excited to announce the relaunch of Christian Faith and Family Day at Dodger Stadium on July 30th, well after this whole thing. More details to come, but we are grateful for the opportunity to talk about Jesus and determined to make it bigger and better, blah, blah, blah. So I personally think that's weak sauce. You can disagree with me or not, because I think we talked about, we all watched Fearless when Taylor and Gordon were both on there, right. And they mentioned the fact that hockey players sat out when they saw these things. Sandy Koufax did this kind of stuff. Yet on that night, Fwaz, do you think any Christian or Catholic is going to sit out?
Good to be with you guys again. I don't think so. No. I hope they are. I hope that there are some. I hope I'm wrong. I like to be wrong in this case. I just don't think that folks see. Here's my main issue when it comes to all of this, and I'm trying to look at a broader sense than more of the scope. Number one, you're telling me that there's people living today that hate the Catholic Church. Well, take a number. That line is long and has been long for 2,000 years. we've been mocked, we've been attacked ever since since our founding. Since our Lord founded, through Peter. So it's not so much that the attacks are horrific. It's that I think the response from the Catholics have gotten so lame, because in the past, you had holy men. I mean, if you think about it, look, Vianney was not a great place to be, but St. John made it an incredible place because of his holiness, his witness. I mean, there were drunkards in the bars and had sexual, disorders that went. So this is the issue. Kudos to Bishop Barron for coming out. I don't know if Bishop Gomez has come out yet. I could be wrong. I haven't checked.
He hasn't done any video.
Okay,
no, he hasn't done any of that.
You got the ex-auxiliary bishop of LA, and now the bishop of Minnesota, someplace in Minnesota, is speaking out about this. So kudos to him. I did tweet at the good bishop. I said, thank you for not having complicated feelings about this, unlike some of the Jesuits who, don't want to upset their fan base, because we know who they are. But the attacks are going to come, and we're going to be the face of it, because as Christ said, the world's going to hate you, but remember that it hated me first. And that's just the way it's going to be. We are literally called, from the moment that Christ resurrected to the moment that his second coming, the entirety of those last 2,000 years, and whenever he's going to come back, is a mop-up job of bringing everyone that is willing to himself. So who do I blame? Number one, I blame Catholics. Number one, we don't take our faith seriously enough. I am just as appalled at the lack of faith in the Eucharist and the disrespect in the liturgy by Catholics as I am by the so-called Sisters of Perpetual. We should stop calling them by what they want to be called. That's a very leftist thing. It's like calling them by their pronouns. The so-called Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. So, if we're looking at this in the broader lens, it's really us that we're just so weak in our faith and so weak of defending our Lord. We don't have saints, and like Jonathan said, there's no beauty, there's no virtue in this world that people can look up to. And if you look at the whole aspect of gay marriage, it was the fact that Catholics made such a mockery of marriage because we have such a high divorce rate. Who said it? Was it Pope Pius X or Pope Pius V? One of them said the biggest problem in the world is lax Catholics. We're the ones that bring on beauty into the world, and we're the ones that bring on destruction according to how we approach our faith. And we can bring people to our faith in a virtuous and beautiful way, in a strong masculine way as men, or we could just walk all over our faith and then get upset that the other side is doing it. So the other side is going to get what they deserve by God, and he's going to punish them accordingly. I mean, I have my own justice to deal with, but I don't want to be that. I don't envy their judgment day. So I don't think anybody from the Dodgers, because vainglory has become such a gigantic problem. Vainglory is some of the fathers called the 8th deadly sin. And it's such a problem because we literally would rather sell out God for our careers and justify it with one another. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm appalled, but at the same time, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's par for the course, isn't it? Nowadays, it's what's the latest thing here. Steve, big sports guy, and obviously a bigger Catholic. The whole intersection of this stuff, how sports has been used to push everything. I mean, they set this back up with Black Lives Matter in 2020, right? They used that to push narratives and agendas, and nobody pushed back. So why wouldn't they use this route, especially since you're going to get how many lukewarms are going to go, whatever, freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. I still want to go see my Dodgers game. I don't want to give. Nobody gave up football. No. I mean, anyway, I'll shut up. Steve, you go.
Yeah, I mean, you go back in the 40s, 30s when they brought the national anthem. The reason why they have national anthem in games, they admit, was to juice up, boost up military signees, people signing up for the military. So they've used sports. They know to use sports and different things after 9/11. What'd you see? Red, white, and blue everywhere. Before then, you didn't have to be on the field. Afterwards, you had to be out on the field waving the flag. They usually a flag the size of the stadium. And that was, again, to gin up people joining the military. So they know how to use tickle your emotions, basically. They know sports is a big thing. And sports does. Baseball's the national pastime. There's a bunch of great Catholics involved. I mean, Babe Ruth. There's a story about him getting mailed a miraculous medal. How many people know about that? Guy tells one of his teammates him before he's dying, and he goes, "You need to get your house in order." And he ended up getting a priest come over and give him, his general confession basically on bed. I mean, Lou Gehrig, gentleman, saint, not saint, stay in the man usual, married for 50 years. Catholic dude. Gil Hodges is a great documentary that one of the guys put it. Vince Scully, the other Catholic, you can get him to tell you he does some app that he says the rosary during. Branch Rickey, he apparently was so square, they said, that he wasn't up for baseball at that time. Think about that back in the 20s or 20s when he was a teenager, probably. Mm-hmm. That he was too square for baseball back then. And he learned Latin on his own. Wanted to be a priest. And if no one knows who the heck Branch Rickey is, he's the one that integrated the major leagues and brought Jackie Robinson into the league. And there's a video about Jackie's wife or daughter, I think it's Jackie's wife, talking about the first time they met Branch. So there's really cool stories. There's a story about a St. Louis Brown that goes up to Pius XII and says, "Hey, Your Excellency, we both have something in common." He goes, "What's that?" He goes, "We both used to be cardinals." Pius XII. And so there's great stuff. But the last decade, you've had the NFL putting NFL as gay right there in big bold letters. You got in my area, the Carolina Panthers as a tranny cheerleader, the first ever, right in the middle of the Bible Belt. Nobody really cares. Baseball has been doing this for years. Was it 2018, 2019? Fox had an article, somebody had an article about every team except for Texas and I can't remember the other name. It was Texas and somebody else did not have Pride Night. Boston has it big time. The Red Sox, the Yankees, all these guys have it, and they've had it for years. A funny thing about this year is apparently San Francisco, the capital of Gatum, is they're not having a Pride Night. Apparently, they're doing the Jersey thing, which you mentioned the hockey guys. There's plenty of hockey, about 4 or 5 guys that have come out at least saying that they weren't going to wear the pregame jerseys. And then last year, you had in the Tampa Bay Rays 5 pitchers who said, "No, we're not wearing a patch. It's just a patch." And they had all heck broke loose on those guys for not wearing Big Ed. You can't do that. The freedom of religion and freedom and tolerance goes out the window when you say, "I just don't want to. Can I just not do this?" Your opinion doesn't matter. It's the homo-fascist mafia. Is when was it? I can't remember who coined that. I think it was a church that coined it. Somebody did. But anyway, it's the homo-fascist mafia. And it isn't. You go after these guys, they will turn on you with all of them. It's Libido Dominandi. That the E. Michael Jones, the book Libido Dominandi comes out. He tries to correlate unregulated passions with unregulated violence. The Marquis de Sade, and that's how you get sadists and things like that. Nothing's going to happen. I mean, the Dodgers are number 2 in gross revenue, or no, not gross revenue, in team worth in all the major leagues. I think Yankees are 1, Dodgers are number 2. They had $520-something million gross revenue last year. They get $100 million easily on a TV sale. So again, when people talk about the gate, going to the stadium, some teams don't care because they're going to get $100 million just for the TV. Come on. So we could boycott the whole season. They're going to get $100 million for the TV, which there is a boycott going on in Oakland right now. It's
Yeah.
Oakland's leaving for Las Vegas, and they're moving the team because Moneyball pretty much killed it. They're terrible right now. They're so bad. I think they didn't get their starters didn't get the first win for like the first 30 games or whatever. Like, anyways, they're moving. So the fan base has revolted. There's more people outside protesting than there are inside, to the point that they're selling tickets for $99 for the rest of the summer, for just like $3 tickets just to get people in. Your kids get in free night, dogs get in free night. They're begging people to come in. So people can boycott if they actually have the willpower to do it. Do I see that happen in LA? Not a chance. And you know what? The thing about Kershaw's thing, teams do that. They've done that for years now. Different teams, they have this thing called Fake Night. Everyone gets together, and you can type it in. You'll see photos from past ones on Google Images. But it's at the end of the games. What's going on with this honoring thing. This is right after BP, before the anthem, maybe after anthem. It's when all the butts are in the seats that are coming. You're going to the game. You're there for the first pitch. This is happening before that. So that's great that Clayton's doing that. Fine. It's great. They've done it before. But what Clayton's got to get out and basically, go after this. I mean, Joe Torre's sister, I think, was a Ursula Nunn. No, I think Joe's dead now. But I mean, there's a lot of guys that could stand up to this or call out this. So you're telling me, like Bishop Aaron, great job that he did, because the diocese response was just weak sauce, incredibly weak sauce. Compare that to Dagger John, Bishop Hughes, talking in New York when he comes out and says, just the anti-Catholicism going on then. We will make this city into another, I can't remember the name. Basically, I'll let the people, tear it down. Anything happening out there? No. But I mean, if you want some info, go check out Anti-Catholicism America at 1620 to 1860. I got one of the books like that here at the house. It's the last, as this was the subtitle. One of them is the last acceptable prejudice is anti-Catholicism, and you see it in Kate, whatever her name is. She's a lesbian. She's not going to condemn this. And she thought, we're not going to do anything about sports teams. Man, they didn't shut up when they were talking about trannies playing women's sports. Totally cool. Actually, you're a bigot for not letting men participate in female sports. So, and then, the guy that's in charge of this, there's the Joe Torre photo. Eric.
He's alive still. I think he's still alive. Torre.
He may be, yes.
He's like 82, I think.
I'm sorry?
He's like 82 at this point.
Possibly, yeah. He's up there. I mean, Eric, the guy that started this doing this, Braverman, practicing homosexual, this man in charge of it. This is not the team, the players itself, but you have to. Oh, you're not seeing the stream. I'm sorry.
No, we just see your lovely face.
Yeah, there's the tweet with his email address. He's a married homosexual in charge of a Pride Night. So yeah, you think you're going to change this guy outside of prayer and penance? Good luck. Yeah, we can call him. We can make as much noise as we want. You should anyways, but know that it probably was a Gamerje talks about that. Are we a religion of protest? No, we're a religion of prayer and penance. Fatima, pray for these guys to convert, because people, go to hell because we have no one to pray for them. It's easy to pray for our friends. Hey, it's easy to pray for Fawaz. He's a good dude. Everyone likes him. Look at that smile. He's a great artist. He's incredible. Look at him. I mean, just everyone loves him. Rick too. But it's hard to pray for Aaron, or it's hard to pray for. Where's the? How about this guy? Yeah, sorry for the thing. It's hard to pray for those guys, right? But that's our job.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. That we have to, it's easier to pray for friends. It makes it's not impactful, but we have to pray for those who are in this position to blaspheme. And yeah, that it's another par for the course in secular society and modernity. Enoch, get back in here. I know you want to follow up.
Yeah, no, I was inspired what Steve was talking about. Just a couple of things. Number one, what he said at the end was actually what I also wanted to say is I've heard this quote before, and I can't stand it because I think it's just so silly. It's like, remember, while you're sleeping, the devil never sleeps, as if like you're the one that's supposed to take down the devil. It ain't our job. And it's like I have to stay awake my whole entire life and work to death and get into politics so I can defeat the devil, right? The QAnon crap. In reality, it ain't our job. It's like, yeah, we have the angels and the saints behind. We have Our Lady, which they fear. Instead of coming up with our own ideas or coming up with our own ways of fixing this in this way in this social event. I'm not saying don't do good work and try and build the kingdom of Christ here on earth, but it starts on our knees and it starts in prayer. That's where it's prayer and fasting and building virtue. That's where it starts, because when we call on the prayers of a righteous man availeth much. When we are righteous and we pray, God hears our prayers, are more efficacious, and there's more souls being saved because of it. That's number one. Number two, the reason why I think the weak sauce Christian night is so silly is because it actually represents the life of most lukewarm Catholics and most people in the world. What do I mean by that? Because it's just another event that's added on to all these other events. And that's how we view God. We view God as He's just another thing that's part of my life. I have my family, I have my job, I have my career, and then there's God. And then there's my faith. It ain't just another part of your life. It ain't just another night. Oh, it's Christian and family night, along with the ones who hate Christian and family nights. It's like, that's how we view society. That's how we view God. And this is just the display of it.
Yeah, all great points. All very great points, guys. So that's our first culture war issue we're covering there. Let's move on to a supposed culture warrior or a warrior in the culture war. John, you there, bud?
Yeah, just a brief point to follow up on what y'all have all been saying is about kind of the devil, I think, revealed something in this name of these people, or their as Fawaz said, their self-imposed name, about indulgence. I mean, really, the hardest thing for us to do in the spiritual life is to say no to ourselves, to what we want, to put ourselves under somebody else's obedience, And so, indulgence, what is the opposite of that? It's self-denial. And in a lot of the rosary meditations, the fruit that you're praying for at the crucifixion, the fifth sorrowful mystery, is self-denial. To be able to say no to ourselves. I mean, that is really the apex, the culmination of the spiritual life, just to say no to self, and whatever God wills, that's what we will, that perfect conformity of our will to God's will. And it starts just saying no to ourselves in little things. I mean, so that, the first penance or the first offering we make up to God can just be as small as telling ourselves no in one little thing. And that's the first step to beating folks like this, is to, like the saints, the early desert fathers said, to beat ourselves. I mean, we don't necessarily have to do it literally, but, to tell ourselves no. So, just to add on to what Steve and Waz were saying there.
Dude, that is an excellent point. Unmute. So, yes, great points. That's why the panel is here, because they absolutely crushed it. Let's move on to our next topic. Speaking of culture warriors, the worst kept secret in 2024 politics was announced on Tuesday, earlier this week. I don't know what day it is. And it could have gone better is the best way I could say it. Let's take a look at some of our...
The billionaire Elon Musk unveiled the new Tesla Cybertruck. And when he went to demonstrate the vehicle's supposedly bulletproof glass, they smashed two of its windows, even though they weren't supposed to break. Today's Twitter rollout of the Ron DeSantis campaign went kind of like that.
Now it's quiet. We want to welcome you to this historic Twitter Spaces event, and more broadly, a first in the history of social media. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce two individuals who've done more to loosen the grip. Sorry about that. We've got so many people here.
So let's see.
So if we just keep crashing, huh?
Well, it's certainly an incredible honor to have Governor DeSantis make this stark announcement.
Yo, it was like 20 minutes of that. Trump had the golden escalator. Ron DeSantis got the world's most embarrassing 404 error. Over 20 minutes of technical difficulties that sounded like this. That is how the Florida governor's big entrance in the Republican presidential primary will be forever remembered.
What came next was boring, cringy and downright uncomfortable. Some diehard DeSantis fans, virtually all of whom I knew and liked, and advisors asking softball questions that felt almost Pravda-esque in their obsequiousness. There was no spice, there was nothing challenging, and there was nothing newsworthy. Nothing to grab headlines the next day. I wrote a sentence to my team I didn't think I would ever write. I miss journalists. That's how I felt watching this. Somebody who would challenge him a little, bring the heat a little. Perhaps the worst offense was that through all of this, I didn't laugh or connect with the candidate even once. And this is a guy whose policies, most of them anyway, I support. He didn't crack a joke at his own expense. He didn't say something that touched me about America or the troubles we're going through.
Sounds like she misses me.
He didn't even tap into the righteous anger so many of us are feeling that has inspired many of his policies in Florida.
It's okay,
maybe he doesn't
Megan.
have that gene. Maybe he's just a pen and paper guy who will pass the right legislation, and that's enough of a blessing. But he is up against a man whose voters love him.
That's right.
Who is up over DeSantis right now by anywhere from 30 to 45 points, and who has the advantage of already having been a sitting president.
We're going to get to Governor
Technically, I still
DeSantis'
am.
vision, especially like ripping apart the bureaucracy in a moment. But the question on everyone's mind, including my daughters tonight, is what happened? I mean, you handled it so well, much better than I would have. But what happened at the top?
Well, what happened at the top, Laura, is just we had 1 million people simultaneously trying to get into a Twitter space, which is an online room. And, I mean, DeSantis just melted the servers. We had so much interest. I mean, I got to hand it to him. Normally it takes a Kardashian to do that. So we just had so much interest. It took about 15 minutes. We've never had that level of scale before on Twitter. I think the biggest room's been around 100,000. And so after about 15 minutes, we just moved the room to my account from Elon's account. And then it really worked perfectly. I think if your viewers want to go on Twitter, the recording is going viral right now. They're going to wonder what all the fuss is about, because once we got started, the audio was perfect. And I think the governor was totally unflappable. And I think one thing I learned about him from this is that once we did get started, and we were, about 15, 20 minutes late, there was no hint of anger or irritation on his part. He was in a great mood. He was, like I said, cool.
In that audio space, and when I joined Wolf, there were about 667,000 people that were trying to listen. That's what the audio space said at the time. Now, to give you some context, Twitter has held much bigger events. When Elon did his BBC interview through audio, I think that got up to 3 million people. But what I think they probably didn't anticipate was this many people coming in at the exact same time. Because they had announced that this was going to happen at 6 p.m., you can imagine hundreds of thousands, if not, over 1 million people trying to listen to this. And the problem, Wolf, is that when you have such a high frequency event in any kind of technology, it could be on social media, I'm on my phone right now, it can be in streaming when you're watching sports, it's that huge deluge of people coming in at the same time that often messes things up. Now, the problem that this is going to have for the DeSantis campaign, and Caitlin just mentioned this, is that he's trying to send this message that I can bypass the traditional media, I can go direct to my listeners. Well, when the first time you try to do that in launching your campaign, it doesn't work, and you're almost a half hour late to the announcement, it's a very bad look. It's going to make him likely less risk-taking when it comes to this type of thing in the future.
So I'll throw my thoughts in real quick, and then everybody else can jump in. I understand what they were trying to do, the concept of trying to be innovative, all this other kind of stuff, but we are in an age of video. We are in an age of video, and DeSantis, as great as his policies are, he doesn't have any charisma. He looks like a block of wood next to Trump. And he's not a bad looking dude. So you got to use everything in the toolbox for this kind of stuff. Just putting yourself behind a mic. This is not 1941. It's not like the fireside chats. But this, whenever you try to go outside the normal way of doing things, which you try to do here, you're obviously going to have a stumble. Maybe he should have tried to do this secondary outside of the announcements. I don't know. That's just some food for thought. John, your thoughts?
Well, one, I'll make a quick point where I'll disagree with you, Rick. He has charisma when he's cornered, when he's pinned in like a pit bull, and when he gets ferocious and responds back to somebody who's trying to be smarter. Yeah. So
I mean, like Megyn Kelly said, I think she had maybe a deeper point that she realized. Like the time where you see Ron DeSantis that impresses is when somebody asks him a difficult question. So why throw these softball questions? That's not what he. You're right about this, Rick. That's not what he does well. Like Trump can just take it and run and can kind of create his own script. You're right though.
And Steve and John, just as he was making that point, boom. When he comes back on, we'll get him back on here.
Is Elon running this?
There
show?
he is. Oh, is he? Yeah, Elon's mad at us, so he might be trying to cut in and out on the stream. While we're Fwaz, your thoughts on that? If anything, if you want, I think John made some very good counterpoints to what I said.
Sure.
Your thoughts on all this?
I like Ron DeSantis. I like Ron DeSantis in Florida. I don't know why he's running. I don't know what he's going to gain out of it.
For 4 years.
Yeah, I don't know what he's going to gain out of it, to be honest with you. And I have a question, and if anybody can answer for me, I'll eat my hat. Can somebody tell me what Ron DeSantis can do in Washington, D.C. that Trump didn't or can't do? Anybody? Somebody. Give me the answer.
Bueller.
Nothing. There's nothing that Ron DeSantis can do that Trump didn't or can't do. And when it comes to the media mocking Ron DeSantis' horrible start, have y'all seen the guy who loses the battles against the screen in front of him on a weekly basis? Our current president? They're always defending him every single time he makes them. He fell off of a bike standing up. And then when it happens, it happens. I want Ron DeSantis to lose because I want Ron DeSantis to stay in Florida. All right, I like Ron. Does not belong in D.C. There's nothing he can change in D.C. D.C. will eat him alive. Why? Because he's gonna. The same people who ran the George Bush campaigns and the Paul Ryans and the McCarthy's and McConnells and the McChickens, they're gonna run his campaign in D.C. So I don't care who the president is, but for entertainment purposes, I'll take Trump because it was a fun 4 years of watching him go back and forth with the media. And there's one thing that Trump did do that I don't think DeSantis was able to do in the 4 years that Trump was there. He doesn't have the charisma or the brains, I don't think, or the guts. Trump, in my personal opinion, the one thing that he did do that was great, because I can name you a whole bunch. I think he did worse, a lot of things that were not great than great things in his 4 years. But one thing that he did do is there's a lot of people whose eyes were open from 2016 to 2022. And Trump did that. And he called out the UNIP. We didn't even know what a uniparty was. We didn't know that the Republicans and Democrats were in cahoots with one another. We had an idea, but we didn't know it was to that extent. And Trump exposed that. Ron couldn't. He doesn't have the charisma, I don't think. So I like Ron in Florida. He's doing a great job there. I want him to make Florida even more red. I want the red governors to make their states more red. And if the blue governors want to make their states more blue, they're going to see more exodus. And that's how you do it. All right? Think locally, act locally. Right, Steve? So my last point is...
I approve this message.
Ron DeSantis is... You're joining a field that is already saturated, and the kingpin that's sitting up on top with a 30-point lead, he ain't going nowhere. You're not going to sway any voters. And I think Trump is playing. Trump can't help himself. He's playing this silly loyal thing. But I don't think Trump is number one going to lose any of his base. You need his base to win. Areas. I will tell you this: Trump is petty enough. If he loses the nomination, he's petty enough to tell his base to stay home. The Democrats will win.
Yep,
he's petty enough. So you
and they'll follow him.
Yep, they will. They will follow. They will stay home. So I mean, if you think about it, the Georgia primaries in 2020, the Trump, remember, they said stay home because it was going to be fraudulent, and they stayed home, and we lost 2 Senate seats in 2020, and that tipped the Senate. And so Trump is petty enough. You're playing a dangerous game unless, and this is my last point, unless DeSantis and his team know something that we don't know, that Trump will face some legal issues in the next 2 years that will stop him from running. But kudos to DeSantis for running the most successful and the greatest podcast of all time in one night.
Absolutely. Steve, I'm just gonna toss it up, buddy. Alley-oop. Go get him. Why is this a stupid idea for DeSantis to even jump in?
Because people think that this vote matters. I mean, there's a meme I was trying to look for it. Sal, the agorist, has up, and I know I shared it, but I can't find it on his site right now. But I'm sure I will after I get done. But basically said, they stole it. Oh, here it is. They cheated the last election. Better vote them out this time. There's 0.0. Here's, I briefly put this up when Fawaz was talking. Here's real clear politics. The polling right now, Trump's up 25, and South Carolina Republican primary, Iowa's up 42. There is 0.0% chance anybody outside the last name of Trump, if Mr. Trump wants to chime in again, say hi, he can. But hey, it's a farce to think that anybody in that field is going to win. And we can say, well, we have hope. Hopium is a heck of a drug. And yes, you can pretend that we don't have rigged elections, which we've had since the beginning of elections. That's just a fact that if Trump wins, Trump won in 2016, rigged election. 2020, rigged election. You can't have 2020 non-rigged or 2016 not rigged and everyone else was all, rigged. You just can't have that. You got to admit they're all rigged. Trump was involved and brought in to let that air out of the funnel so that people wouldn't be mad anymore. Guess what? People were mad again. Trump's got another 4. Why not send him back in? Nothing changed. Someone goes, hey, drains a swamp. No, he didn't. He brought in more. There's no drainage. He drone bombed more people than Obama. And Obama can go out and say, I don't have an Obama voice, but he can go out and say, I bombed somebody every hour for 8 years. Legit, he did. Trump outdid that. He also gave money to Planned Parenthood. Sure, we got the Roe ended up getting killed from the federal, like it should have been. And it's back to the states where it should have been. And people were talking about, well, we need, get rid of abortion. We need to get rid of gay so-called marriage. We need to get rid of contraception. Great. You can do that all where? Ding, ding, ding. At the federal level. You see Montana doing it. You see North Carolina, South Carolina the other day, just 2 days ago, 6 weeks for abortion, bringing it down. These guys were at 20 beforehand, and now it's down to 6. So you're slowly creeping it back. And people down here in the South, they want that. You look on I had a link on Clown Planet. How many states, where the states are that are bringing the pro-life laws? It's Dixie. That's why they hate. That's another reason why they hate the South. But yeah, you can't go up in D.C. And yeah, he's Fawaz 100% right because I've said it many times. I want 50 Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is going to lose. Fine, great. You should be, because if you want a dictator, just say you want a dictator. That's it. If you want somebody to come in and be a rule by executive, what is the executive branch? They don't write the laws, but we let them do it. The executive orders. We're okay with it when we do it. The legislators do the law writing, not the executives. You want a monarch? Just say I want an elected monarch. We basically got it. Just say that that's what we want. And that we want the United States to be one blob ruled from one side to the other, and no state can do anything except if it's good for us. That's another, again, we get that mindset. You get, and Fawaz was bringing that up. You get people of good virtue, good like mind. You get some we don't have 50 Catholics in the 50 states that could run for governors of these states. Fix this in a heartbeat. We don't have 50. We don't have Catholics in each county in each state. Come on, there's some that aren't. Like in Dixie, there's some counties that don't have a Catholic church. Probably, South Carolina probably is one. You look going to the back roads of North Carolina. I guarantee there's a couple areas that don't have any. But still, all right, let's convert them. I know people that are moving to the boondocks of one of the Carolinas. Hey, there's an opportunity. Go fishing. We should be able to convert these areas. If we convert these areas, they become what? Catholic. And then they vote better. They rule better. They legislate better. if you want to have a problem, look in the mirror, myself included. I haven't converted this area. Well, we need to do that. That's the only way. Voting will not do. If you think of voting for 360,000 million people, it's because people think this is a land of 360 million people. That's a country. No, the states are too big. But if you think that's going to fix anything, pass the hookah pipe, because I still haven't gotten it from you, but it must be something good.
Yeah, exactly on all of that. And I had a point, and I'm completely, it's gone. So don't worry about it. Obviously, it wasn't that important. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I've been saying from day one that, oh yeah, here it is. I was listening to Royce White the other night, and he said there's like 2,000 Republican precinct chairs or something like that, committee chairs in counties that have not been filled. And it's like over half the amount. He's like, if that's why you want to actually do, if you want to do something, you can sign up for something like that. There are open chairs in the Republican Party that you could easily fill, like Steve was saying, tomorrow, and you could start influencing that way. And
yeah,
so
most of these races run unabated all the time. When I ran in 2010, the guy that ran, it was a House seat 75 in Columbia, South Carolina. The guy was the incumbent for 2 decades. Usually these guys have nobody ever running against them.
That's how AOC won. That's how AOC won in the primary.
Yeah.
Guys, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Didn't the legislatures in Arizona just put out an incredible move against machines for the 2024 election? And
I think they did something along the lines where they have to be made here in the United States or something like that, or something I know what you're talking about because it was mentioned on Timcast.
Right. That is it. That is thinking locally and going against the corrupted governor over there, Hobbs. So kudos to them, because Arizona is Maricopa County is you know what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't care about boycotts. I want to go to converted cops, whatever you want to call them. Let's go in these cities and convert the cities.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, the only way that's going to work, and it kind of dovetails into what we were talking about last week with Taylor. I'm not bragging on him, but he could be so much more effective as the governor of Texas. I think we can all agree. Nobody was saying he would make a bad president, but just like we want Ron DeSantis in Florida, when we want somebody like a Taylor Marshall as the governor of Texas, or Gordon, where's he in Mississippi or something like that, wherever he is. I know he moved out as the governor there, or the mayor of his town, or whatever the case may be. Those are the races that we need. You brought up a
point that I forgot to bring up with DeSantis is he's come out and said he wants to get rid of the the alphabet soup groups right off the bat. And you get out there, you have somebody with a message, hey, be on the board, be on the debate board, and you pull out the little pocket constitution. I know people don't like the Constitution, whatever. That's the rules you got to play by in this. Is it in here? You talk about a soundbite that would get played over and over again and tell people, hey, I'm going to get rid of the income tax, which you can. You can get rid of the all these alphabet soup groups that are unconstitutional. Not in this booklet. We're done. Day one. You would have and be like almost like a Ron Paul in a sense with a Pat Buchanan in there, because Buchanan was out there talking about how abortion is a crime against humanity, and he was out against sodomy and all this. He was a little bit nationalist in a sense, but he had this culture war idea that was fantastic. You put in that you get the Ron Paul guys in there, tell, hey, I want limited government, I want this, I want that. You would get the non-Catholics like that on your side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, because I'm sorry, go Floss.
Sorry, brother. Correct me if I'm wrong. And again, I'm not your avid Trump defender here, but I forgot what the name of the executive order that he passed before he was, before the 2020. I think Schedule F, I think is what it was called, where he already did say that he was going to let go of 50 to 60% of all the alphabet employees, the federal employees, and some of those agencies. Again, what does Ron DeSantis proposing that Trump hadn't already proposed or already did? That was Trump's idea to begin with. It's called Schedule F.
He also said he was going to get, open up the Kennedy files, and now you saw that happen.
Right, exactly.
He was a lot of talk.
Exactly. Yeah, all of them are talking. Keep Ron DeSantis in Florida. That's a hashtag.
And that's the correct move as well. Also, Trump. I mean, I'm not a Trump apologist because of the bump stock ban and all that kind of stuff either. But yeah, that's the case right there. Moving on to our final topic of the day, and finally another culture war issue. First, it was Bud Light. Now it looks like Target is the next up in facing some kind of financial backlash to some pretty terrible things. Let's take a look.
I have a lot of Catholics and Christians, and frankly, they're hurt by this. The LA Dodgers are honoring a group.
Satanist.
Shush yourself,
design
Kate.
a children's
Whatever.
clothing line, and you stock your shelves with tuck-friendly bathing suits, people will get upset, very upset. That's exactly what Target did, and somehow they were surprised at the backlash. They Bud Lighted themselves, and they know it. So now Target's pulling some of the items from the shelves in a last-ditch attempt at damage control. And as you can expect, the left, they're exploding.
This is just part of this war against gays right now.
It's such a manufactured controversy, just like a lot of these manufactured culture wars. Very disappointed that a chain like Target couldn't stand their ground and instead put the LGBTQ plus community in the back of the bus.
Sunny, such a ray of sunshine. Doesn't stop there. California Governor Gavin Newsom melted down, saying this. CEO of Target, Brian Cornell, selling out the LGBTQ plus community to extremists is a real profile and courage. This isn't just a couple stores in the South. There is a systematic attack on the gay community, he said. It's happening across the country. Wake up, America, Newsom wrote. This doesn't stop here. You're Black, you're Asian, you're Jewish, you're a woman, you're next. The only extremists here, let's be very clear, are the ones putting Satan respects pronouns on children's clothing. But this is exactly what the left does, and their tactics work. Big companies, they buckle under their pressure. Just look at the LA Dodgers, who thought it was a great idea to honor these people at a Pride event next month.
Apologies.
Disgusting. Those are the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. That's what they call themselves. They dress up as nuns. They clearly make a mockery of Christianity. And they even hold hunky Jesus contests at Easter. And they're getting an award. Obviously, the Dodgers fans, they got upset, and the Dodgers pulled the invite. But they flip-flopped in the face of leftist pressure. They apologized and re-invited the trans nuns. So are we going to see the same thing from Target? We might, because if you ask their CEO, woke corporatism is Target's bread and butter.
We want to do the right thing to support families across the country. And I'm really proud of the work we've done in the DE&I space. When you walk into a store and you feel at home and it represents the community, it makes a huge difference. I think those are just good business decisions, and it's the right thing for society, and it's the great thing for our brand.
If you put your customers last, don't cry when you become the Bud Light of retail.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.
Yeah, boo, Sean Hannity, go away. We got to be careful and not get too prideful about the Bud Lighting this, that, and the other thing. John, back on with us, bud. Your thoughts on first of all, the implementation of such disgraceful clothing, and secondly, the overconfidence that conservatives may have with this latest backlash.
Well, again, I think it's my only brilliant contribution to this whole show is this very deeply researched, not really, but attempt at explaining why anybody in their right mind or unright mind would do this. And so I think they are trying to, I don't know who they are, to be honest with you. I'm confessing my ignorance on a lot of things here, but they're trying to sink the stocks of these various companies. They're trying to make, look, capital has to disappear, I think. And so the only reason anybody that has any sort of business sense would do any of these things is because a lot of people have to lose a lot of money right now because of the just outrageous inflation of the stock market compared to like what is actually there, what actually should be there, I guess is the better way to put it. So I don't know. My only thought is the only way anybody with any sort of business sense, I shouldn't say common sense or even sort of spiritual sense, but the only reason anybody would ever do this is because they want some money to go away. I don't know. There's to my mind yet, I haven't heard another explanation that makes any sense. There's no reason to do something this crazy that you know will only lose you people. You're not gaining anybody by doing this. No, the left is acting outraged right now, but I'm convinced here that's all a game. there's nothing to be outraged about. Like they've already kind of won the whole match here as far as getting their sins against the 6th and 9th approved, and here now even sins against the 1st and 2nd and 3rd commandments. So I think they're actually not only doing that to kind of sink certain companies, but also just to get us enraged, because on the whole, you end up thinking less clearly when you're angry. All right, that's the way. Under very few circumstances is anger, the appropriate thing there to help you know what to do and when to do it. So here, I think they want us angry because it's going to allow them to pull a fast one in other areas of the culture wars. But I don't know. Just my two little conspiracy theories there.
I think they're right on. I think they're right on point, John. That's a great. Addition. Fwaz, being, of course, all three of you are parents, but the fact, some theories that are being floated out is this is not a result of conservatives, but of quote unquote normal people walking into Target, parents, and seeing this and responding. Do you give that any credit? Do you think there's any kind of pushback, or do you think the average American parent is too busy buried in their phone and not really paying attention to these kind of things? What would you actually attribute the pushback to?
Well, I'm glad that there's independent thought in media, such as Twitter and social media, that you can push these, I guess, ideas out there and kind of fight this culture war. And parents need to be outraged. But I got a question I got a lot of questions today for our people. I got a question for y'all. Why did we ever go back I haven't been back to Target since the whole bathroom. I thought, did I miss the memo? We were supposed to go back. Target wouldn't exist right now if we all stuck to our little, boycott back in those days. Then we wouldn't have been dealing with this. No, but we got to go back, and we can only hold out for so long till we need our Tupperware. So, or Joanna Gaines buffet. So my thing is, when it comes to this whole going off of, to maybe adding some more conspiracy theories because they're fun, going off of from what Jonathan had said, I think it was brilliant. Are we really to believe that the WEF, an organization that has the majority of the leaders and the cabinets across the world that make decisions that run nations under their belt, under their tight grip, are we really to believe that corporations and banks are not run under some other umbrella? These people have no choice. The CEO, I don't think the CEO has a choice. He's told what to do. And they're pushing this because this is the world that they want. This is how they want to change the world. This is the world that they want to see. They want to usher in a world that actually is the world of black magic and Satanists. Father Ripperger was right. If you look at some of the talks he's done, he did a talk on the 6 generational spirits, and he said the next generation, his prediction, the next generation, which is the one that's coming up right now, will be more outwardly Satanist and into witchcraft than previous generations. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing. So what are they going to do? Like Jonathan said, they're going to get us angry, right? We already have a failed economic system. It's already collapsing. It's going to collapse bigger than we've ever seen before, right? And they need a scapegoat, right? Oh, Target went down. All these people went down. Well, blame the right. Blame the religious people because they were so bigoted. Everybody lost their jobs. How do you expect 1% of America to keep Target afloat? That's what they're going to say. And because they hate gay people so much, that's what they think. And then what they want to do is they want to radicalize children. And they do it under the guise of, let them do whatever they want to your kids, because if they don't, they might be sad and hurt themselves. I mean, that's their reasoning. So that's my thing is, this thing can be defeated. Or the chastisement is coming, but it can be, it's not. There's no stopping it. But we can lessen the effects of it by the will of God, who's decreed these things from the very beginning of time. If we actually took the faith seriously, if Catholics were actually Catholics, these things would be lessened. But right now we're in this culture war. I think we should keep fighting the culture war. I think we should do it insofar as to say, keep pushing on the children. Keep pushing, saying you are not taking my children. You're radicalizing my children. You're not grooming our children. And I think mothers, I'm pleading to all the mothers, your middle class mothers, your lower class, whatever you want to call them, your Karens and all your middle aged ones. Please, mothers, stand up against this, because if we've seen in elections, we've seen the exit polls of these elections. Women tend to vote for candidates that are irrational, candidates that support these things, candidates that support the alphabet and the BLMs and all of these crazy things. If you supported candidates that actually want safe, your children to be safe, your children to be educated, your children to grow up and where they can provide for themselves and live a virtuous life and have a safe city and churches near there, then it would be over. But I'm pleading to the wives and to the mothers to go out there and to change elections by voting for politicians that want to protect children, not groom them.
Steve, your thoughts?
I was just wondering when he was talking about the irrational stuff. I don't know. I don't know if there's any that exist. Somebody voted her in.
Yep. White women. The fall of Western civilization.
There it is.
She be breathing heavy too. Lady, get on a Stairmaster or something.
This is not on repeat.
Nope. Democracy in action, folks. None of them are there, though.
No, I thought about getting a truck the other day. Hey, you're going by this from big and tough. What a cool commercial.
I mean, they definitely have the Chris Nolan wand.
Oh, got a car wash.
Well, to be fair, they made Ford went gay when they took the original Raptor and made it a turbo, but that's neither here nor there.
How many guys are going to buy? How many do they make like that? How many people are going to buy that, one, expensive a truck, two, live that lifestyle? So you know what? I'm going to get that kind of. I don't get it. It boggles the mind. But Faraz was saying, they need to stoke the anger. Communists want that They want that retaliation. I mean, that video we played when Faraz was talking, people are. I mean, how great was those TikTok videos? You know, they were talking about the families doing this. People are going into TikTok, making fun of, or Twitter, whatever, Target, making fun of this thing, and it's being effective. But don't go in there and destroy property. If you're on, quote, our side, I hate to say one side versus the other side, we got to be better than them. Again, how do we do it? Do we do it? Are we a protesting religion? No, we're a penance religion. I mean, depending on how many more rosaries we're praying and protests or tweets out there. I mean, the whole idea of calluses on our knees versus calluses on our hands. And I thought about mentioning this too. I mean, if everyone gets this book, where is it at? Jesus, King of Love by Father Matteo Crowley. I get it, live it, learn it, love it. I mean, he called Chicago the city of the Sacred Heart. Can you think about that now? And check out, if you want to look at what's going on in here, The Last Vagabond did a great series on this. It's a 4-hour show, probably the middle third of it. It's all on this. I mean, I saw this North Face video. We won't play it, but I thought it was an SNL joke. I was like, seriously? What is this about? And obviously, you have the flag, and this was actually taken down by Twitter. They had a video about the description of the flag, and with these colors, because these are now creeping in. And one guy goes, "Well, this is for black people, brown people, and this is for basically young kids, minor attracted people."
The maps.
And it was like unreal what's going on. Outside of obviously diabolic disorientation. Yes, I mean, just like for what I was talking about the Target thing from 5 years ago. I remember the bathroom stuff when I was doing Uber. The only time I went into Target then was because I needed to go to the bathroom because I was driving. That was really the only reason I would go, make a deliberate attempt to go to the bathroom. But that's it. I do that with Starbucks. I don't buy Starbucks. I don't buy any of these guys. But there's a lot of people that do, even on our side, even like-minded that think it's okay, or think it's okay to buy, but they don't think it's okay what they're doing. We have no problem from our own group to get a Starbucks coffee, to go to Target, to go to these groups that literally, as one friend told me years ago about Disney to his wife, they hate you. And they have no problem doing this to you or your kids, and they're after your kids. Transformers had a thing with the he/she thing. I put it on Clown Planet about the DOG doing emails with pronouns in it. Your tax money is either going to that or Ukraine, one of the two. We got it. When people say we got to rise up or stand up, in a sense, Jonathan talked about it before too, and his last comments were, "Yeah, we got to do what the Desert Fathers did, and how they changed the cities was penance beyond penance." I mean, we don't understand the level of penance. I mean, Sister Mary Magdalene Piazzi had her feast day the other day, and her line of "love does not love." She's going around just saying "love does not love." Think about us. Do we love as much as we think we do? And it goes with the Trump thing. Talk is cheap. And it is, talk is cheap. How much do we actually care? How much do we love? How much do we want conversions? Because I don't know, but I'm guilty of this too. We should be praying almost constantly. Wait a second. St. Paul says that. It doesn't say pray constantly. I mean, Romans 1:20. Read that. And then think about that for today. I mean, those who not pray, their mind goes off and their mind is darkened. That's literally today. I mean, even ourselves. I remember we did a thing long ago. I was on one side, a buddy of mine was on the other, and we both talked to two trads. How many say a rosary? They all daily. Half the crowd drop. That was in our own lane. So great. We go to traditional mass all you want. What's the rest of your time? What's the rest of your? How good a Catholic are you outside it? Do they see on your Twitter feed? Oh, that's a good Catholic right there. That's a charitable guy right there. Or they see, like everyone else sees, man, there's some problems in Catholic Twitter world. If our leaders act like that, what's the rest of these guys doing? So we got to do better ourselves. The world goes the way we do.
Yep, absolutely. That's a great way to end that. All right, folks, it is time for Saint of the Week and the Cry Room. John texted us and said his Saint of the Week are the Benedictines. And so that's that. That is his Saint of the Week. He did not give me a cry room because everybody's in the cry room. So who cares? Fwaz, you're up.
Yeah, Saint of the Week. I'm going to go with Whitlock this week, only because kudos to him. I know a lot of times Protestants can't stomach Catholics because of the misconception they have in their brains. They've been lied to all their lives, but he reached out to. He didn't reach out to Gordon or Marshall. He actually said, who are the defenders of the Catholic faith in the social media world, and people responded. He invited them on his show, and he reached out across the aisle and said, let's lock arms and let's fight Satan together. That was great, brother, and I will lock arms with Protestants against the left any day. Once the left is taken care of, we can go back to bickering about John 6. And my cry room is going to be Chuck Schumer, and the main reason is it's because the Supreme Court just recently put an end on the stronghold of the EPA, and he came out and said this was the problem with the MAGA Supreme Court judges. Well, he failed to realize, probably on purpose, was that that Supreme Court vote was 9-0. So it wasn't just the MAGA appointed Supreme Court judges. It was also the Bush and the Obama and the Biden appointed judges who did that, because it's against the law what EPA is doing. So cry room goes to Chuck Schumer.
Steve, what you
Guess
got?
a lot to have an EPA. My cry room, Governor Cooper. Everyone knows I'm from North. I'm living in North Carolina right now, and the GOP has the majority. One reason the lady that switched from Democrat to Republican was because she wanted school choice. And I saw a good sign: my child, my choice. Huh? Hey, that's something. So he declared a state of emergency because bills that he don't like are getting passed. No, this is not a joke. And I mean, stuff in here that is going with it is, being able to go to wherever school you want. School vouchers. I mean, his kids go to a private school, but hypocrisy is not just for any. Is open for everybody, even trans. My saint of the week will be Bishop Barron for coming out and saying what he said about the Dodgers situation. Kudos to him for doing that, as Fawaz already pointed that out. But yeah, that was a good statement, a good calling that he did. Just wish, and there was other bishops that day. I think Corleone came out and said something. Strickland obviously came out and said something. So there's been quite a few guys that come out. I guess we could throw honorable mention the Jesuits for, what was that one guy saying? He's having for us. Remember that article? He's having some
complicated feelings about this.
Yeah, complications. Yes.
It's complicated,
Yeah, it is. It is always complicated. So saint of the week. Hold on a second. Big shout out to Sharpen Light on Instagram.
That's nice.
New logo from him. Big thank you to him. You can purchase this T-shirt that I'm wearing. I want him to get the first. If 100 people do it, I want him to get the royalties back from that because he's got kids and it was a great design. I want him to make sure he gets his payment for it. You go to his website. If you're on Instagram, follow him, Sharpen Light, and then purchase one of his shirts. And that'd be great to support him because he made this awesome logo. So he's my saint of the week there. Thank you very much, brother. You blew it out of the water. I couldn't have made it any better and wildly happy with that. I'm put Clayton Kershaw in the cry room. Don't care. You want to put Bible verses in your Twitter, in your bio on Twitter and not do anything about it and not completely revolt against your organization because you're worried about your paycheck. Man, I've done a lot of terrible things in my life. I got to answer for it, the 4 final things, Clayton, but you're going to have to answer for that, buddy. And somebody needs to tell you that. You're going to have to answer for it. That's who you need to really be worried about. All this other stuff, social media backlash, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. You're going to have to worry about the fact that when the time came to stand up for the faith and defend our Lord and defend all of this, you didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And I recently listened to Father Isaac. It was a talk 10 years ago about time and the time we have. Now time is a gift, and every moment, your opportunity, this time period for you, Clayton, came, and instead you were like, oh, we're going to do something like 4 weeks from now. What happens, man? You can't take those 4 weeks for granted. None of us can. I'm not saying anything bad is going to happen to Clayton Kershaw. Please don't, but we can't take 4 weeks from now to assume that that's going to be there. So hopefully if you hear from some fat midget on a YouTube show, maybe that'll change your ways. All right, folks, that's it for this episode of News from the Pew. If you like what we did, like, subscribe, and share the News from the Pew. We will talk to you next week. God bless, and Viva Cristo Rey.
Viva! Are you tired of this? Oh, what about that?
Who's that guy?
Trying to grow in holiness, but tired of sore eyes? You don't have to settle. Introducing the leather-bound Bible. Read it while you're baking. You can even read it in recreation. The leather-bound Bible. Approved by Scott Hahn. Say goodbye to sore eyes and say hello to the leather-bound Bible.